The one question that kept coming to my mind was, how can I keep him with me? I could feel his presence in the urn. I would talk to it. I would look at it often. I would pick it up. It wasn't Rudy with me on more adventures. It wasn't Rudy with me on more walks. It was just Rudy sitting on a shelf.
There is a glaze that we use a little bit less often. The results are spectacular and nuanced, and later I had learned that as part of that recipe, there is a small amount of cremated remains from my boss's grandmother.
What is that process? I come to you, I have the remains of my beloved, whether it's a human or animal, and then what? Welcome to the Digital Legacy Podcast, where we talk about death and dying in the digital age. If you ever asked, how do I protect myself and those I love if something unexpected happened to me? You're in the right place. I'm your host, Niki Weiss, and together we'll explore how to protect yourself in a world where both your physical and digital legacy leave a lasting impact. And welcome back to another episode of the Digital Legacy Podcast, where we talk about death and dying in the digital age. You know, when we die, one of the things we need to do is to determine whether we're going to be buried or cremated. And that's where our next guest comes in. What to do with your cremated ashes. Let me introduce you to Dave and Sébastien. They are the team at Nia Emberley. So Dave, you've got quite a story and how you got to this death tech space. Please share.
Sure. So Nia Emberley for me started with my dog, Rudy. I got him after going through some pretty significant losses and getting some fairly unfortunate medical diagnoses. And he was largely my best friend, my sole companion for a number of years. And then in his 10th year, he had developed a growth on his leg. We took him into the vet clinic. That turned out to be cancer after a biopsy. So we were taking it easy, and our walks and adventures had gotten much shorter. Most often, we were just going to the field kitty corner to my house for our daily walks. We were out there on a lovely spring day. He was going around greeting all his dog friends, sniffing his way through the park. And then he laid down in the tall grass. I thought he was just catching his breath, but he never got back out. And I wasn't prepared for that in any way. It gutted me for a moment of time. I was crying constantly for the better part of a week, didn't really leave my house for the better part of a month. I wasn't prepared to lose him, and I was desperate to keep him with me. So I found myself going out on all of our old walks, carrying his leash and wearing rockstar-sized sunglasses so no one could see my tears. And I just couldn't find a solution to the question that I had at the time, which was, how can I keep him with me? And then I actually saw an episode of Shark Tank with Parting Stone on it, and their idea of solidified cremains really spoke to me, because I was looking at Rudy's remains on the mantle at the time. But I didn't like the idea of him still being left at home and not being able to come with me. So to me, the idea was solidified cremains made into memorial jewelry. And at the time, I knew that bone china existed, so I figured there must be a way to get this done, but I didn't know how to do it myself. So I reached out to a local clay studio in town called Viva Clayworks. Met a lovely lady there named KJ who owns Viva, and she introduced me to Sébastien, who's a ceramicist, scientist, one of my best connection I've made in the last 2 years by a long shot. I really like Sébastien. And we've been working for almost 2 years now in R&D, trying to figure out a formula that would actually work for our solidified remains. It did not end up being anything close to bone china, but maybe Sébastien can do a better job of talking about our process.
Well, let me ask you, I see you wearing a necklace.
Yeah, this is my dog, Rudy. And this is my dog, Rudy.
So you have multiple pieces that represent and memorialize your beloved dog.
Yeah, I can take him with me on walks every day. I can take him with me on more adventures. And he's just there whenever I'm thinking about him. I think it's great.
And then Sébastien, for you, when Dave knocked at your door and said, hey, I've got these ashes of my dead dog, what was your original thought?
I mean, it sounds a little crazy to say that way, but this is something that I've known I've wanted to explore for at least like a good year before I met Dave. So I kind of come at this from a completely different direction. I've been lucky enough to work as a ceramicist for the last few years. I work in a pottery studio, and I get to teach people how to make pottery. It's a wonderful setting to get to be part of. And through that, it's always been clear to me that like I'm a little more interested in the science side of things, the experimentation, materials, that sort of thing. Um, and at my workplace, there is a glaze, like a bucket of glaze that we use, a little bit less often, and the results are spectacular and nuanced. And later, I had learned that as part of that recipe, there is a small amount of cremated remains from my boss's grandmother or grandfather. I can't remember which. Um, and to me, that's truly special. That that would work as an ingredient, and that it would contribute to the nuance and the sort of special meaning behind their creations. And so that kind of planted the seed for me wanting to explore, cremated remains as part of this craft. And then, yeah, beyond that, there is bone china. That's, it's a well-known thing.
Well, talk to me about bone china. That's a term that I really am not familiar with. And for most people, what is the history on bone china, culturally speaking, and how to bring that into the art form that you're currently using?
Absolutely. Yeah. I wish I was a little bit more read up on the exact, long sort of tradition behind it. I believe this has been a thing for a few, hundreds or thousands of years at this point.
2,500 years, and started in
Okay,
China.
that sounds right. Pretty much everything in ceramics has started in China thousands of years ago. So when we work in ceramics, we have clay, and we work and we make creations with it, and that clay is made up of a variety of minerals or different materials. Uh, And there's porcelain, which is quite delicate and white, and bone china is essentially another clay body in which people are able to make creations out of. But the primary ingredient in bone china is actually cremated bones. I think usually more like bovine, cattle bones, that sort of thing. Um,
Animal, not necessarily beloved pets or people.
I'm sure that played a role in it as well, but when it comes to people, we kind of have like a different issue in the sense that we only have, this amount. When I'm working, when I'm testing things with regular materials, I could just go to the store and buy another bag of it and just run more tests if I want to. But when it's our loved ones, you have to be a lot more purposeful about your experimentation and that sort of thing. But it's the same idea. And bone china is known to sort of fire to this extremely translucent white that is very difficult to achieve with other traditional materials, and it sort of melts into an almost glass that you can kind of see through a little bit, and it's truly like seeing an example of it is truly alluring. You can almost see your liquid through it just with sunlight, and it's fascinating.
Well, it sounds like it's quite. Can you walk us through the process of the technology and the machines that you use?
Absolutely.
Because I find this fascinating. I mean, the thought of an option. So Dave now has his beloved dog with him wherever he goes, and he doesn't have to carry a ratty old leash. He can wear a beautiful piece of jewelry that people admire. But to be able to go from ashes to this artistic piece of jewelry, what is that process? I come to you. I have the remains of either my beloved, whether it's a human or animal, and then what?
Yeah, so a lot of the times that we receive ashes from a crematorium, we call those ashes, but really what's happening is that all the organic material from our body ends up burning off, and what we're left with is bone, is essentially just the bone. And the ashes that we receive are those bones that are ground back down into a powder. And those bones, they're made of calcium and a few, and there's sort of systems by which we can understand the chemistry of these different materials and sort of get this to fit into the greater picture to make something that makes a little bit of sense and is workable. But our process, essentially, there's nothing too secretive or brand new about it. We're using well-established techniques, but we're just combining them in ways that like what I've found throughout my experimentation is that a lot of it comes down to just how well you're able to process the ashes. When we get them from a crematorium, oftentimes like the ashes are, dark gray or black, and that just means not all of the carbon-based material has burned off, and there's chunks and there's impurities and that sort of thing. And we've we've tried just about everything from using the ashes directly into directly into the kiln and processing them in a variety of ways. But essentially what we're doing is just trying to purify them down into just the bone. So That includes, removing all of the soluble sort of salts that would be associated with that, burning off anything that hasn't been burned off from the crematorium, grinding this down into a powder that's a lot finer than anything we'd receive from a crematorium. And it really, the quality of the results at every step of the way have always been kind of a function of just how well we're able to do these steps, how diligently you go through this entire process. Like any, rushing any of these steps pretty much always drastically decreases the.
That's the art form. I mean, you're an artist, and to be able to take the remains of a loved one with honor and then
Absolutely.
put him through this process. I mean, it's a hand process that you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and even just working with, the cremated remains of loved ones, it's quite different. There's a dignity to there that you don't find in just regular materials that we would just buy from a store. And so, yeah, like sort of learning how to treat those, with more dignity, with more redundancies in mind in case anything ever goes wrong, that sort of thing. A lot of my, exploration has actually been focused around there. And then, yeah, as far as making the, once we have the ashes and they're processed, everything from there is fairly simple. We have, standard sort of high quality like porcelains and clay, minerals, that sort of thing. And inspired a little bit from like bone china and how it's formulated and how the chemistry sort of looks from my perspective. That's kind of how we were able to sort of be guided towards something that, because really we're finding somewhere that's very much between art and science. And
Oh, please explain, like where's the intersection between the art and the
yeah,
science?
it's always either like science for the sake of art, or art for the sake of science. And that's actually kind of been my that's been the little niche that I've existed in since long before I've done ceramics as well. It seems like I always sort of flip flop between like artistic things and being, drawn towards the scientific aspect of those things. And yeah, sort of having this, very special, it seems strange to call it a material, but I guess from my perspective, having this very, special material to work with, and using the sort of well-established science to sort of make sense of how to fit this all together and how to get something that not only looks good, but is, workable and, not too challenging to sort of.
It's interesting. I mean, I don't know where you are in the woo realm, right? I always ask people like, how woo are you? Right? But I mean, when you're taking the remains, like there's energy in there, right? There's
Yes.
the thought, and this is Dave, where you might be able to jump in. It's like when you lost your beloved dog and you went through this mourning process, and then you took the ashes of the dog that was sitting on your, your mantle, which for many people, they say cremation, but then I always ask them, well, what are your plans after cremation? So what were you thinking when you lost the drama of losing the dog and then getting the remains back and not knowing what to do with the remains? What was that like for you?
I'm not very high on the woo scale, I think. I like Keanu's answer to life after death, where I don't know, but I know that the ones who love us will miss us an awful lot. That's kind of where I come from. And that was what I was feeling. I was missing Rudy intensely. Like, it's one of the most intense emotions I felt in my entire life. Like, I'd never, I'm 51 years old, and I'm lucky enough that Rudy is the only important being in my life that has passed. It was my first time encountering and dealing with that kind of grief and that level of just complete emotional overwhelm, intense emotions. And the one question that kept coming to my mind was, how can I keep him with me? After the first question, which was, how can I get him back? Which obviously unanswerable. So from there, I just wanted to find a way to keep him with me. I wanted his energy. I could feel his presence in the urn. I believed I could feel his presence in the urn. I would talk to it. I would look at it often. I would pick it up, but it wasn't coming with me. It wasn't Rudy with me on more adventures. It wasn't Rudy with me on more walks. It was just Rudy sitting on a shelf, and that didn't satisfy
Rudy
me.
on the shelf.
Yeah. I forgot about Elf on the Shelf. It's pretty goofy.
I mean, it's poignant though, and don't get me wrong. I mean, we need to acknowledge how many people have relatives sitting on a shelf, somewhere for decades. I mean, my husband and I talk about how his uncle was literally for over 20 years because no one knew what to do with it. And so here to be able to take, now, did you use all of Rudy's ashes or did you still save some of them?
Through research and development, we used all of Rudy's ashes, and then many of our friends' pets' remains as well. It took a lot longer than we expected to get through R&D and come up with a formula that was as durable as we wanted, and it looked as finished and refined as we were hoping for, and one that would also leave us with a clay body that would work with our glazes without any unwanted weird interactions.
When people make this decision, right? Because this is one of the decisions people have a really hard time with, especially when, let's say with pets, specifically with pets, right? Because they go in and the experience that we have with our pets when we put them down, right? First of all, we're making that decision. I mean, okay, Rudy made it for you, but for many of us, we're making that decision ourselves. And then the vet is, they will kind of want to settle the bill. And part of that is like, what do you want to do with the remains? And we have to like decide there in the midst of our grief of, do we take the dog with us? Do we leave the dog there for extra fees? We can get the dog cremated either. I think there's an option to do like a group cremation versus like individual cremation, but there's like ka-ching dollar signs after that.
Yeah. And I wasn't happy with the options that were presented with me, and I certainly wasn't prepared for the timing. It all happened within hours. He passed. We ended up at the emergency vet clinic, and then I was presented with, do I want him cremated? Do I want him cremated individually? Do I want a nose print? And do I want a paw print? Those are the options that I was presented with. And the only thing I knew at that time was I'm not leaving him here. He's going to come with me. Well, obviously not in that moment, but he's going to come back home with me. So I chose individual cremation, and I wasn't really interested in any of the other options they presented me. And I was still faced with the one problem that I had, which was just, how can I keep him with me? I don't want to forget him. I don't want to lose him any more than I already have. And I want him to be with me on the rest of life's journey.
Whether it's your beloved dog or it's pet and your beloved pet or your parent or just a loved one. Sebastian, when you introduce people to this, I mean, how do you introduce yourself? I mean, you're not just a ceramicist anymore.
I suppose so. Yeah, it's always a little bit ambiguous. I mean, I still present myself as a ceramicist, but I have a niche, I suppose, in ceramics. That's kind of how I still think about it. I think it allows me not to lose the art in the science. It's sort of easy to, I don't know, get lost on a calculator that's, calculating the chemistry of a certain mix and everything just becomes numbers. And it's, the reason I went into this was for the meaning and for this extra sort of depth. And it's easy to sort of be sort of lost in the numbers of it all. Still seeing myself as a ceramicist, as an artist, and this as a sort of medium through which I can, explore making a little bit of meaning for people in this world. I think that allows me to still hold on to a little bit more of the sort of meaningful side of it to me, if that makes sense.
I have to say, if people are not aware of the growing industry with human remains, or art with remains, because it's not just humans. I think my son, his beloved dog, Sosa, passed away, and then he took the dog's ashes and actually put it in he tattooed a photo. He's got a tattooed picture of the dog's face
really?
With the ashes in there.
I didn't know that was a thing. That is pretty fascinating.
But I feel like this is the trend.
My sister had the same thing done with a new tattoo she got 2 weeks ago, made with her dog's ashes.
But you really are, this is a growing industry, I would think, and the technology that's being developed around, art, different mediums of art. I would think that clay itself, there's going to be more advancement within this space as we move forward.
The demand is increasing exponentially. They're saying by 2040, effectively, 100% of the Earth's population is going to be choosing cremation. We're also working in an industry that's going through a significant transformation as our world has been digitized over the last 20 years. So I think the demand for current alternatives and the number of people that are looking for something to do with cremated remains it's growing daily. It's doubling every decade. So there's definitely people experimenting in this area. We've got Parting Stone doing their version of solidified cremains and turning them into a collection of beautiful pebbles that you can share and display. We've got folks suspending cremated remains in glass and in resin. I didn't really feel like that approach there wasn't enough of Rudy's essence. There's no actual transformation, nothing solidified. A small amount of ashes are suspended in the resin or the glass. It's still beautiful, it's very meaningful, and I think for a lot of people it's the perfect solution. For me, I wanted his ashes off the shelf. I wasn't satisfied with the fact that what was left of Rudy wasn't able to come with me on the rest of my life. So that was where solidification came in.
Well, before we go back to Sebastian, I'm just curious, the piece that's around your neck, how much of that, what percentage of that is actual?
Approximately 70% is solidified cremain, and then somewhere between, depending on the piece, 20 to 30% is clay, and then the final 5% is a mixture of minerals and elements that probably only Sebastian understands.
And hold on to your IP, Sebastian. Don't give away your secrets. But I'm sorry, did you have something you wanted to share as far as your experience working in the future, what you see the future of with this industry? Either of you.
I think the future is bright for anyone offering an urn alternative, or anyone offering a solution as to what do I do with these cremains. The question is being asked more often every day, and cremation is the way of the future.
And for you, Sebastian?
Yeah. So, well, you were asking a little bit about like the sort of evolving technologies within all of this, sort of along with the fact that it's also kind of like an art and a science that's been established for thousands of years. It's interesting because it's truly a bit of both. It's fascinating that like bone china and ceramics in general has existed for thousands of years, and we're using the exact same materials in more or less the same ways as thousands of years. So in some sense, there isn't anything brand new, but at the same time, there absolutely is. There's new horizons being explored, and it's we're not necessarily using, cutting edge, groundbreaking technologies that have never existed before, but we're combining them in ways that go a little bit deeper than sort of what just the standard literature seems to suggest, if that makes sense.
So with the jewelry that you're making, how do you determine? Are they individually designed? Or do you have like a selection that people can choose from?
Right now, go ahead. I think you're better suited for that.
We have 4 products in our lineup right now. We start with our Always pendant, and then we offer our Eternity bracelet, which is uncolored. So the ashes that you put in are directly influencing the color of the final piece. Then we have our Evermore bracelet, which is available in any one color. And then we offer our Journey bracelet, which is available in a variety of colors. And the idea there is that each different colored bead represents a different memory, a different milestone, and you're creating sort of a wearable memoir. So we started with those. Ultimately, if it can be made with ceramics, we can probably make it using our formula. But we're staying focused on jewelry right now because the whole reason behind this for me was to find a way to carry Rudy with me. And I think it's that everlasting connection that we're really focused on.
Sebastian, are you wearing anybody of meaning?
I actually do have a pendant and a bracelet just in the other room. I really should have put it on for this. Yes, but our old family dog, absolutely. I wanted to make myself a pendant and a bracelet as well. It's special and meaningful, and I find it's a good way to sort of honor my craft as well as, the sort of special times that we've all managed to, get with their loved ones.
So the logistics, if I'm in the United States, how do I ship these ashes to you?
We just figured that out last week.
Oh, do tell. That's got to be, especially with what's going on here. So go ahead.
We launched about 3 months ago now, and I've been obviously going out and doing a bunch of networking and outreach and trying to open new accounts, make sure everybody is aware of what we're doing. So the lion's share of the connections that I've made in the 3 months since we've been open are definitely south of the border for us. And we haven't known what to do about that up until a week ago, because the idea of shipping ashes across the border seems very complicated. But it turns out there's a very simple solution, and it's called the 139 box.
Let's just get it. A 139 box. So I go to my local post office and I say, I don't have to tell them what I'm putting in there, right?
It's only for cremated remains, so they'll know as soon as you ask. The box is free. It comes with the box. It comes with the peanuts that you need to protect your urn or the container that your ashes are contained in. Comes with a Ziploc to put the urn or container of stored ashes in. It comes with a whole bunch of orange decals around it that clearly label it as cremated remains. And then it gets sent out through UPS Express. Is it called UPS Express? It's Canada Post Express.
So it's a carrier, right? Whether it's UPS or DHL.
Now that we've figured that out, we're going to be opening up some partnerships next week with some funeral homes and vet clinics in the States. So we have yet to put this new discovery into practice, but it sounds simpler than I thought.
So I feel like we need to take some notes here for people. So 139 box. As soon as I go there, they're going to know, oh, she's shipping someone.
Yeah.
I'm shipping a beloved one. And then from there, USPS, right? United States Postal Service, USPS. And then from there, it's just, I want tracking on there. Insurance. What specific instructions?
It's insured, there's tracking, it's whatever the highest level of shipping that USPS has available. I forget the name right now compared to Canada Post, but it's their most regulated method of shipping, most tracked, and it's fully insured. So a client would bring the remains to the funeral home, ask them for the box, package everything. We provide a prepaid return shipping label. They put that on the box. The box takes approximately 4 to 7 days to get to us. We do our work, which takes about 4 to 6 weeks to turn the cremated remains into a finished piece of memorial jewelry. And then we have to use Canada Post. They don't have a 139 box, but we still have to clearly label everything following the same methodology. And then we can ship it back into the States.
Now, am I sending the entire remains, whether it's
Half a cup.
a half a cup?
Yeah.
A half a cup. Okay, take note. What do I do with the rest of the remains?
So many options. Urns, scattering. I think that's one of the things that I really liked about our product. When I was first introduced to the idea of solidified cremains through parting stone, their thing is using the entirety of someone's remains to create a collection of pebbles. And I think that's a wonderful idea, but I didn't like the idea that people could possibly contest each other's wishes and goals. So if one of my parents were to pass and say, I think it's a great idea to make a memorial bracelet, but my sister thinks that's the worst idea in the world, now we can both be satisfied if we can agree to divide the remains.
You're bringing up a really important point, which is that this needs to be discussed before the event.
Yeah.
Right? And we're all shaking our heads, right? The importance of, planning. We're back to my final playbook. We're back to what is your plan? Did you communicate it? Did you document it? Does everybody really clear that this is what you want?
This is where Endeavo becomes, I think, an invaluable service. And as the industry is becoming digitized, I think you're playing such an important role in providing such an important product and service. I've gone through your intake process on the Endeavo website and asking your questionnaire, and my answer to almost every question was, I don't know what this is. I've never considered this. By the end of that questionnaire, I felt horribly unprepared for something that we all should have a plan for.
And so, you guys are like the last stop. You were dealing, with your dog, and it was your beloved, you were the sole decision maker. But imagine if this was a parent or a child, and there were multiple people that, were part of that decision process. Does your team have any sort of guidance in asking how the decision could be made or best to prepare people in order to put this as part of their legacy plan?
We could refer them to it.
I appreciate that. No, but Sébastien, is this in your plan? Do you have that noted that you want to be part of a piece of jewelry, and then you're just gonna and you get a piece of Sébastien, and you get a piece.
Well, I did the assessment on your website a few days ago, and I think I got the lowest possible score. So, admittedly, I didn't even know how much I didn't know before doing that assessment, if that makes sense. There's certain things that had never even occurred to me to be thinking about those things. I've had a few very casual conversations, but admittedly, not really. And I guess, that kind of threw it back at my face a little bit, that there are some very low-hanging fruits that are really easy to deal with that would greatly simplify everything for those, that continue on after me. And so I think these are worth
Well, don't feel
exploring.
so bad because look, I mean, you
No,
guys
no,
are
exactly.
and, no, and what I mean by that is like I've spoken to estate attorneys that don't have comprehensive end of life plans.
That makes me feel a little bit better.
I
Yeah.
know funeral directors that they don't, I know, so like they don't have their digital piece set up, right? They have some logistics, but they haven't had this whole comprehensive, you die tomorrow, scenario one, you get a terminal diagnosis, scenario two, or that long-term care plan. And I just feel like having it identified, like buried or cremated. Okay, it's like a decision tree: buried
Yeah.
or cremated. Cremated. Okay, what do you want done with your ashes? And Nia Emberley is like an option, right? You can turn, and it's a half a cup. It's a half a cup, so that could be one option, as well as having a scattering ceremony, or put into another piece of jewelry or something.
Currently a part of that conversation. We're one step removed. Our funeral home and vet clinic partners would handle all of that on our behalf and then liaise with us to get the product actually made. But I can't imagine how complicated that would be and how much simpler everything could be with a little bit of
pre-planning. Let's get past this. Look, you guys are dealing in the death and dying industry, and you still don't have a comprehensive end of life plan. So hopefully it'll motivate you to start thinking about getting and it takes time, but the decisions do need to be made. And what you went through, Dave, it was unexpected for your beloved, right? So write it down, share that documentation. So talk to me more about where, if people were interested, we know that they need the 139 box on the US side. On Canada side, what do they need to do?
They just visit our website or their funeral home partner. So if they're already working with a funeral director or a veterinarian, and that veterinarian is already working with us, they just mentioned they'd like to buy a piece from us, and their funeral director or veterinarian coordinates everything for them. If their funeral home director or vet clinic is not already working with us, there's no cost for partners to join us. So they can visit our website at niaemberley.ca, sign up as a partner, and then they can coordinate the shipping of the ashes and take care of invoicing and everything directly with the client.
And for you, Sébastien, have you just shared with family and friends, like, hey, put us into your end of life plan?
Essentially, yeah. I am very lucky to, because I teach a variety of pottery classes, and so I have, a dozen to 15 students that are very keen about this entire world of ceramics and materials and the endless possibilities that come with that. And so it's great that I have a community that I can sort of use as an epicenter to, sort of broadcast the options, I guess, to the world. And, even like our very starting point, like this, seldom used hidden bucket of glaze in one of the corners of my workplace is always a conversation starter amongst those that are interested in the sort of material side of things and how, we can add a little bit of like a special quality to the work that we do. And so it's nice that I get a sort of community of people that are already kind of interested in these things already. So it's great to have a lot of people to talk about this with. Yeah.
Sébastien had mentioned that it starts conversations. That's something that I hadn't expected. When I'm wearing my memorial jewelry out and about, people will stop and ask, where did you get that? And then I get a chance to talk to everyone about Rudy again. And I really enjoy that opportunity to share more about him and to memorialize him and remember him.
To keep the memory going. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me and sharing with this inspiring option that people have. Don't just leave your ashes. I feel like I want to get a tagline. Don't leave your ashes on the shelf. Memorialize them. Make them a heartfelt piece of jewelry that you can wear forever. I really, bring that to the forefront for everybody. So with that, where can people find you? We've already mentioned the website. Do you have social media accounts, or really the website is the best place?
Instagram right now at Nia Emberley Memorials. I'm a bit of a dusty dinosaur trying to figure out how social media works. So we're staying focused on Instagram, but we'll be on all the socials as soon as I figure out how to
All
do
good.
that.
All right. And with that, folks, thank you for joining. You will see Emberley on the endeavo.life website. We will have them as part of our marketplace, and we'll make sure that easy to find. All right. We'll end here. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for your time, Niki.
Thank you, Niki.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Legacy Podcast, where we talk about death and dying in the digital age. I hope this conversation inspired you to take control and plan for the inevitable to protect yourself and those you leave behind. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at digitallegacypodcast.com. Remember, life is full of surprises. What happens after you die shouldn't be. So keep your passwords safe and your playbook up to date.